Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Get Dirty Garage, where today on kind of the second part of the bumper build, we gotta make sure that we can put, we want it flush, so we want to modify the body in order to kind of get some pockets in there and so on. So that really kind of evolved into flushing out the tail lights. So that's what we're going to try and do today. So we'll see what happens. But hey, we got a lot of work to do, so let's go ahead and let's get dirty. Is this thing on? Yeah. All right, so if you kind of remember the mock-up that we built for the bumper, I want to try and flush things out with the body and so on, but that means we got to kind of modify the pockets of where they sit, and got to playing around with the tail lights, and they fit in there, but they're just kind of wonky, quite honestly. So I'd like to make the tail lights actually flush and eliminate a little bit of this beat up old housing and so on. So we're going to start with chopping this old edge off here and seeing if we can't use this housing in order to have the tail light still fit in there, but then kind of take away all that wonky looking chrome and make the tail light itself flush with the body panels and so on. So that's our mission and our task, should we choose to accept it. So the first step with that, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this up. These old housings are pretty well beat up and not much use, so not risking a whole bunch, but we'll chop those up and see where we go from there. Alright, so I think I'll slice right along kind of that inner chrome trim there. These are aluminum, I think. So not sure how many sparkles the sparkly wheel of terror is going to make here, but we'll see. Okay, so that gets us a start. I think next we'll take a grinder down and try and make these edges as thin as possible. And then we've got to kind of also, this does stick out a little bit from where the lens is, so got to do some grinding and shaping on that, but we'll get busy on trying to thin out these edges. Okay, so a lot of grinding later, but basically you can see kind of the concept I'm after. Thinned out this, cut off the chrome trim and so on, but made this kind of thin and match the profile of the lens. So if I'm able to mount the housing in flush, then the lens should be flush with the body and so on. So that's the concept, and I think next I'm going to try and put together a frame around this, you know, something solid that I can actually weld to the car, and so it won't warp as I'm playing around with some of the sheet metal and so on. But we'll put that together and get that something that this can slide into and mount into, and go from there. So at least to start at it. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking for the frame. I got some 3/16 by 1 inch, just some strips and so on, but I'm going to try and put those together and then grind them into shape so that I can have kind of a solid frame around that. So I'll get to zapping these together and we'll go from there. So that piece should allow me to cover that, and then what I'll do is I'll mark that and grind that to the profile and make a top and a bottom, and then got some piece cuts for the sides, and I'll put together a frame kind of tight around that, and then we'll have something that we can fit to the car. So that's the plan, and this should not warp when I'm welding it to the sheet metal, so I want to keep that frame nice and I guess the contour pretty stiff. So we will I'll put the rest of that together, do some grinding, see if we can't get a profile together, and go from there. Alright, so after lots of welding and careful grinding, here's kind of the housing I came up with. Also put in a little tab in order to hold the bracket in place. That's what holds the tail lamp into the car, so got that on there. But basically the tail light fits into that bracket pretty flush, and that way I think we can weld the bracket itself to the car, and that way we can have something to mount that housing into. So I think that the next step is really just doing some surgery on the back of the car and seeing if we can find a spot where the housing itself fits, and then we'll know that the tail lamp fits. So we'll get to marking that up and going from there. All right, after sitting and staring at this corner that we mocked up last time for a few days, I think what I want to do, instead of bringing, it seemed a little high and boxy, I mean pretty big in this spot, so I think what I'm going to do is actually probably take the bumper and match it with this body line that comes across the tailgate, and that way, you know, when we put that in there, we can drop straight down from the housing that we made, and that way it'll kind of blend into that bumper as it goes. So I'm gonna mark up, I've got kind of where I think the top of that's got to sit, and based on the measurements that I took on the housing that we just made, I'm gonna have to go in pretty tight to the tailgate opening, but I want to get everything in there kind of level and so on. So we'll make some cutting marks here of what we're gonna chop out of this beast. And then if we go across the top here, and then what I'll do is kind of cut stuff off. And I have taken that little loop off there, but kind of take that straight across from that body line. That'll give us a point to go down to. And then across here, you know, I think you can just kind of level that up. Cut out what we need to here. On this side, I'm sure I'm going to have to extend that quarter panel a little bit in order to meet that tail lamp housing that we just made. But this will get us a cutting mark to go to, or get back to flat sheet metal. And definitely going to have to reform the pockets and so on to kind of meet where we want the bumper to go. But let's cut this out, do a little bit of surgery here on the beast, and that way we got a starting point to get in there to put that frame that we just manufactured together. So. that should give us a big gaping hole to play with, but now I think we can find a spot in here where we can get the stuff to match up. So we'll play a little bit with that. Looks like I got to cut a little bit more back here, but I'm going to play a little bit with this and see if I can't find a spot where I can match some contours, and we will pick it up from there. Okay, well, after quite a few hours of fiddling around and some minor reshaping and coaxing of the quarter panel, did get kind of located in here where I think it should be. It's kind of why I had to put this comically large patch in this side in order to kind of blend that out, because the quarter panel actually used to meet the housing, not necessarily the tail light, but it will now fit in there fairly flush. So I think we're in pretty good shape. But one thing got to do, this corner that I made to replace that that molding pointed at the corner of the housing, which was quite a bit further out than the tail light. So I've got some minor reshaping to do in there. So got to do some cuts and some hammer and dolly work, and also this bows out the quarter panel extension where the tail light is curved this way. So I've got some hammer and dolly work to do there. So we'll get going on making kind of a slice up this side, and then bringing this end panel back in with hammer and dolly, so it kind of meets up with the point of the tail light there. So that's kind of next task, and we'll get started on that. By the way, got a call into the HR department the other day. Guy says, "Hey, listen, got some good news and some bad news." I said, "Well, give me the bad news first." He says, "Bad news is we've considered you and labeled you untrainable." That's not so good. I said, "What's the good news?" He said, "At least now you qualify for management." Okay, let's get some work done. Okay, well, I think I can blend that in from there, get it coming down to this and to that, and then this I'm gonna go straight down on both of those. So I'll get busy on making some patches, and we'll do some welding and closing this up. Okay, so went in and just threw a couple of little scrap pieces up in there. We'll get some welding in there, but I'm bent and kind of formed up these two. So my plan is to kind of come straight down from there and see if we can't blend that in just a little bit, and that way this bottom surface will be kind of where the bumper blends in. So let's get to tacking those on. Okay, I think we got the basic shape of our corner down, and that should be able to be blended in with the tail light. So then this line kind of matches this body line coming across here and around, and then we'll get this welded up and ground down, and then we got to form a pocket for the bumper to sit on the side yet. So we'll get to kind of finishing and grinding on this one, and we'll take a look at that before we do any cutting out for the pocket. So that one's next. Okay, so there's a very rough weld, and we'll do a round of grinding and check in on it at that point and see what we're up against, and chase some pinholes around, I'm sure, and have some fun with that. So, anyways, we'll get moving on that part. All right, so quite a while later, I do have doing some traveling from work, so it was a couple of weeks before I could get back onto this. So my apologies, but anyways, do have that housing kind of roughed in, and kind of emphasize rough, I guess, but basically the intent is to have the taillight fit in flush and be able to kind of go all the way around, even with the metal. So there was a lot of reshaping and grinding and welding and so on involved with all of that. So do have that, I think, where I think it's reasonably stylish and so on. This line had to kind of bend this down just a little bit more, trying to meet all of that and fill in some gaps and stuff like that. But I think we're kind of where we want to be. And at this point, next step is really gotta work on this pocket down here. I kind of want the bumper to be even with the tail light, you know, somewhere down in here where the bumper stops. So, and this pocket is kind of tapered, and I want some clean gaps in there. So I'm going to have to kind of extend this portion of the quarter panel back a little bit, and because this line down here kind of washes out a little bit, I'm going to probably take this back, you know, back in this area and cut this out. This pocket's got to go a little bit deeper as well, and get some clearance in there for the bumper to come up and meet up in this area. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that marked out and get out the sparkly wheel of terror and see if we can't get this chunk deleted on, and we will build a pocket for that bumper. So that's the next step. Okay, get it marked out where I want to cut it. I'm going to cut it on along this back side. I got to move that in as well, so I got to do a little bit of cutting there, but try and get all this stuff out of here, and then we'll build a pocket. Okay, looks like I'm going to have to actually cut out this quarter extension as well, because it's pretty tight to the quarter panel in there. So I'll get through that, and then we'll check in at that point. Okay, so got that cut out of there, got trimmed a little bit away from that inner quarter extension that we waited so long for before, but went ahead and bent up a piece to kind of match the quarter panel here and give an extension out. What I think I'll do is I'll just put a couple of tacks in this and hold it in place and get it positioned where I want it, and then come down and really just kind of put in that contour of what I want the bumper to look like, and that way I can zip the tacks back off and then cut it, and then start forming like a 90-degree going in, about a ½ an inch or so, and then really a panel behind it. So we'll get a quick couple of tacks on this, and then we can chop it up again. Got the lines matching up pretty decent. Just bent that in the vise as usual, but okay. Zap that at just a couple of spots. Oop. Always better to have a ground. It's a little warm. That should work okay, just to get a spot in there to start cutting from. So let's do a little bit of geometry here. So that's really where I want to start that from. And I think we take that down similar to that line that was kind of in there before. I think we should be in pretty good shape. That way the bumper will wrap around, kind of meet with this, and then have a little bit of an angle to try and match this back angle of the back side of the bumper. So it'll be a little bit thinner on the bottom than it is on the top. I think that'll give some good balance, and figure it out from there. So I'm going to go ahead and chop this off, and then try and get a piece to go straight in from there, and then try and figure out a pocket that we can go behind there. So we'll pick that up from there. I'll chop this off, get this off the car, because I want to weld kind of that inside seam where it comes back together is off the car, so I don't have to do a whole bunch of grinding and stuff, because I'd like to weld that from the back side. But we will pick it up from there. So next steps. All right, so here's a rough idea of what I'm trying to accomplish. This is a piece that we've bent up and tacked on, and cut that off, and then put like a 1/2-inch spacer straight back from that outer surface, and then kind of just put an extra piece in there as a bottom to that bumper pocket, and that'll make a nice crisp line up in there. So I think it's pretty close. I got a little bit of shaping and so on to do, but I'm going to go ahead and weld this up, and I want to weld this seam from the back so I don't have a lot of grinding in this valley down in here, because that's just a real pain in the buttocks. So I will get this welded up, ground down, and then we will fit that to the car for final fit and get that zapped on there, and I think we should be in pretty good shape. So that's the at least the start of the bumper pocket. So we'll go from there. All right, so here's what I ended up making. This obviously is the extension on the quarter. Tried to get those lines to match up, and I have primered the back of this, but basically just a little bit of a dip in, a 1/2 inch or so here, because when I bring the bumper out flush, I want to have a little 1/4 inch lip that goes straight in, add a little strength and so on. And just added another piece back here to kind of fit that contour, and a piece on the top to kind of close that out. So the idea there is just to get everything, kind of catch all the lines there, and then I can weld it up along here, and then along this bottom surface close out this gap, and along the back here as well. So it should be pretty close to what we're needing to get that in there. So let's go ahead and tack that on and see what we can do from there. So throw a couple of tacks in this thing. Alright, let's get some metal melting done here.
That's a good example of getting a little aggressive with the grinder and burning through it. So just going to add some material back in there and grind it down some more, and I'll probably burn through a few more spots. But anyways, I will go ahead and get this ground down, chase my pinholes around, see what other kind of burn throughs and damage that I did. But at that point, I think we've got at least the pocket formed and where we want it to be relative to where the light is. That way the bumper can tuck in behind right even flush with the quarter. So I'll continue down that path, get that cleaned up, and we'll take a look at it from that perspective after we're done. Alright, so got a lot of the burn throughs and chasing the pits around and complete, so that's really kind of what our bumper pocket looks like. I put kind of a small radius up here, just trying to, you know, I don't want that really sharp on the bumper, so a little bit of context, I guess, or styling cues or something like that. And you know, if you think about the bumper coming in here and being flush, I think it'll be something like a shape like that, but should meet up and have plenty of room in there and be able to actually blend in really nice. So from that perspective, I believe that we are complete with the taillight being flush, bumper pockets ready to kind of put the bumper together, tapered in as much as it could. But I think from you know, from a styling perspective, I like it. So I know some of you won't agree, but I think it's nice and a little bit more modern, I guess. And actually have also got the other side complete. Kind of the same concept. Tried to mirror them and match them. Bumper pocket in down on that side. So I think the taillights are ready, and should be about time to start dealing with the bumper itself. So hopefully this was at least educational. I would say that's not for the faint of heart, since there was a lot of beating and reshaping on that, but I think we're off to a good start and can finish what we have from there. So on to the bumper. Hey guys, that's going to do it for this edition of Let's Get Dirty Garage. Lots of work in those taillights. I think they look good. Some of you I know that you like the stock look, but we're customizing, so we're having fun as we go along. Did get plenty dirty in the garage these last couple of weeks playing with that, but I know it's been a long time coming. My apologies for taking so long, but we'll try and get some more going a little bit quicker for you. So anyways, I appreciate you getting dirty with me. Thanks for watching. If you get a chance, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, tell a few folks. We'd really appreciate it. I really appreciate the comments as well, so leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the work that we've got accomplished so far, and we'll continue to go forward. So next time we'll start tackling on the bumper itself. That'll be part 2 or 3 or something like that of all this bumper craziness. Anyways, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.